So, how quickly or how soon should one actually start and finish a meal? This is just a showcasing example of this own author's N=1 experience beneath years of cyclical keto plus intermittent fasting regimen. The menu for tonight's sample meal will be composing of 180 grams worth of squid tentacles, followed by 80 to 100 grams worth of vegetables. Most importantly, the type of fats. Anywhere between 30 milliliters to 40 milliliters worth of extra virgin olive oil, depending on the type of ratio of ketogenic ratios that we try to aim for, whether it's higher on the fat scale or higher on the protein scale. So in this case here, this is slightly, moderately, a little bit higher on the protein side of things, just as an example. What we see here during this section will be consume the eggs first and foremost. Why eggs? Various layer of stomach cells that is chiefly responsible to secrete enough hydrochloric acid actually require sources of food that contains acetylated choline. We need also some traces of, unfortunately, this may seem very controversial to many people, some form of glutamate. Why is this necessary also? Recall that this is our very first solid meal of the day. We must ensure that it is both rewarding and also meaningful in all ways, that it is satisfactory. Because after all, there is only so few hours for us to feed to the end of this feeding window of, say, either 3 hours or 4 hours. So why not make the most of it? After the consumption of 2 eggs, at least 1.5 or 2 eggs, this author more often than composed to take a fat-soluble supplementation, whether it is a fat-soluble supporting methylation agent such as CoQ10 or additional vitamin D, vitamin E, or vitamin K2. In this case here, we are using vitamin K2. To be specific, vitamin K2 Mark 7 menaquinones instead of another form that is also commonly touted as an alternative, in which that comes in the form of menaquinone Mark 4s. There seems to be a difference when it comes to half-life bioavailability, as such that Mark 7 versions of menaquinones are thought to be a lot more bioavailable in terms of overall longevity, half-life. But apart from that, the actual feeding continues, and this time we may enjoy the proteins heavy side of things and the fibrous consumption from here onwards. Throughout this presentation and throughout each and every dining experiences, this author would preferentially use small utensils, not big utensils as one would likely be accustomed to within all prior life amidst eating copious amount of carbohydrates. And this is going to be taking quite some time to get used to for readers who are new to standard ketogenic regimens, because eating in a very low carbohydrate or even mildly low carbohydrate meals, it actually teaches an entirely new, gratifying, humbling experiences, in which it is quite difficult to describe other than the fact that it encourages slow, conscious chewing experiences from beginning to end. Then it is time for this author to also move on to the other half protein segment of the meal. In this case here, half of the pork view sardines. We are speeding up the footage so to make sure that this entire viewing experience is not so encumbering. As we are just about to finish up, there is still some broth left. There is some liquid calories that is remnants coming from the squid tentacles, as well as any other broth that also as part of cooking the leafy greens. Once again, it is wise for us to consume everything from start to finish.
So, now that we have finished our low carbohydrate meal, what also comes most important is what we take after the meal has finished. Much of this depends on the season that we're in. So, for instance, during summers, usually we would take either another form of mineral supplementation for mineral support, either half, yes, only half or even just a quarter bite of additional zinc, or an additional bite, just a small bite of magnesium supplementation, and then followed by either, subject to periodization, fish oil omega MUFA N9, 1 times triple strength fish oil, and depending on the digestive comfort, we may even have to consider betaine HCl pepsins. Given this author's many prior years of cycle keto plus IF and the prior many years of standard ketogenic regimens, interestingly finds that he is gradually becomes less and less reliant on this betaine HCl pepsins. However, when it comes to betaine HCl pepsins, this should only be taken when there is some kinds of upsets or digestive difficulties are noted either during the meal or after the meal. However, usually this author would rely on taking betaine HCl pepsins only on a much bigger meal composition, which combines a lot more heavier calorie intake, which is usually more than 700 or more calories after the meal. So that's usually what this author would take during either any given days throughout the year. However, on the season specific parts of the year, either 1 or 2 Brazil nuts. Yes, this is perhaps the most expensive of the list because of the fact that it has such a high concentrations of selenium, in which unfortunately it may be subject for another debate whether or not all Brazil nuts actually do have consistent amount of selenium, in which that may subject to vary as according to the location and the manufacturing processes and or processing. Dietary selenium from Brazil nuts will be nevertheless very, very essential during winters, in which that leads us to the need to just take a small bite of nori seaweed or the iodine intake. So that's one option that we may consider to supplement after the meal during winters. And or finally, we may also consider any additional soups, DIY stocks. This is a batch prepared ox hearts that is being pre-cooked earlier, submerged in water, boiled water with generous amounts of lime or lemon juice, garlic, and with several dash servings of apple cider vinegar. So in this section concerns only on the winter's side of post-meal supplementations for us to consider, and whereas this is pretty much a universal broad range of post-meal supplementation that can be taken irrespective of the seasons.
That is that. A simple, transparent pace of eating sample evidence of what it's like eating and consuming a low carbohydrate meal from start to finish. This is not meant to be a totalitarian gospel for all to follow. This is only a sharing of this author's own N=1 experience over what he prefers, what his physiology prefers to both confers and ensures the most comfortable and the most resilient of all digestion episodes throughout the entire feeding windows, with as little inflammatory upsets, where there is heartburns and or digestive upsets likewise. So, once again, if readers and viewers would like to chime in their thoughts and or relative experiences, please chime in their thoughts down in the comments section below. Leave it forward, and thank you for watching.